I used to give away fresh bread every Sunday morning to the neighborhood shelter, even when my own bakery barely made rent. At 5:30 a.m., I unlocked my shop, turned on the oven, and counted yesterday's tips on the stainless steel table. That was when I noticed the front door would not open from the outside. There was a yellow notice taped to the glass, perfectly straight, as if someone had used a ruler. I still remember thinking how strange it was that the oven smelled normal. By nightfall, everything I believed about this place would be proven wrong. I used to wake up before dawn every Sunday, not because I was generous, but because the shelter only accepted fresh bread before 7. If I showed up late, they turned me away. So I baked through the night, wiped flour off my arms, loaded the loaves into paper bags, and told myself it was worth it, even when my own bakery barely covered rent. That morning started the same way. 5:30 a.m. The street was still dark, the air thick with humidity, the kind that clung to your skin before you even broke a sweat. I unlocked the side door, flicked on the lights, and the oven hummed like it always did. I counted yesterday's tips on the stainless steel table, $43 and some change. I slid the coins into a jar and pushed it to the back corner, where I pretended it did not matter. I reached for the front door to prop it open for deliveries. It did not move. I pulled again, harder this time. Nothing. The handle was cold and stiff, like it did not belong to me anymore. Through the glass, I saw a yellow notice taped dead center, perfectly straight, as if someone had used a ruler and checked it twice. Notice of lease violation. No explanation. No warning. Just my name, my address, and a date that said effective immediately. What stayed with me was not the paper, it was the smell. The oven smelled normal. Butter, sugar, yeast. The same smell my grandmother's kitchen used to have when she let me lick the spoon and told me not to rush what needed time. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at that notice like it might blink first. Behind me, Rosa walked in through the back door, tying her apron. She was early, which meant her babysitter had canceled again. She looked at my face and froze. "What is wrong?" she asked. I peeled the notice off the glass and handed it to her. She read it once, then again. "This is not right," she said quietly. "You pay on time. I see the receipts." "So do I said. By 6:15, the street was waking up. A delivery truck rolled past without stopping. A man who came every morning for coffee knocked, then frowned at the locked door. I mouthed sorry through the glass. He shrugged and walked away. That was when Grant Caldwell showed up. He always arrived like that. Calm, clean shoes, buttoned shirt without a wrinkle. He had started coming by a few weeks earlier, saying he represented the Neighborhood Community Fund. He talked about small businesses the way people talk about pets they do not own. "Ava," he said, smiling like we were old friends. "You look tired." I held up the notice. "Do you know anything about this?" He leaned in, squinting at the paper, as if seeing it for the first time. "That is unfortunate," he said, "but not unexpected." "Not unexpected?" Rosa snapped. Grant raised his hands gently. "Rising property pressure, technical compliance issues. These things happen. They do not happen overnight," I said. He nodded, slow and understanding. "That is why the fund exists, to step in when paperwork gets messy." He pulled a folder from under his arm and set it on my prep table, careful not to get flour on it. Inside were documents printed on thick paper, my name typed neatly, the bakery logo copied from our website. "I can help you stabilize this," he said. "But I need temporary authority to act on your behalf, just until this gets resolved." Rosa looked at me. Her eyes said no, but fear makes people quiet. "What happens if I do not sign?" I asked. Grant did not smile this time. "Then the locks stay, and the notice stands." I signed. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was choosing survival over pride. By noon, the sign came down. Two men I had never seen before unscrewed my bakery name and stacked it in the alley. I asked them who sent them. They said they were told not to talk. Grant watched from across the street, phone to his ear, nodding. By evening, my bakery did not look like mine. That night, I went home and did not sleep. At 3 a.m., I opened my laptop and searched my email history. The lease, the payment confirmations. Everything was there, clean, consistent. Except one thing. A forwarded message from the landlord, sent 2 weeks earlier, replying to someone who was not me. The name was blurred, but the tone was clear. Gratitude, agreement, a mention of an amendment. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. The next morning, I met Grant at a coffee shop because he said it was safer. He slid a new document across the table. "This will give the fund operational control," he said. "You will still bake. Nothing changes. It's a bracket." I flipped through the pages and stopped at one line. Transfer of proprietary methods. "My recipes are not methods," I said. "They are. Once they generate revenue," he replied. I closed the folder. "No," Grant sighed, like I was being difficult. "You are emotional. This is business." I looked at his hands. Clean nails, no scars. Someone who had never burned themselves on an oven rack. "I will not give you my recipes," I said. He leaned back. "Then I cannot protect you." Eyes. That afternoon, the local paper posted an article. Unsafe conditions, questionable hygiene, misuse of community donations. My picture was there, taken from social media, cropped so my apron looked stained. Customers stopped texting. Rosa cried in the back room. My phone rang until I turned it off. At 6 p.m., my supplier called. "Did you change your account?" he asked. "No." "Well, someone did. All future deliveries rerouted." "What about the vanilla?" I asked. There was a pause. "That one already went out, picked up yesterday." My chest tightened. That vanilla was not just expensive. It was rare. A small batch my grandmother saved for special days. Only one person besides me knew where I kept it. I locked the door, sat on the floor, and pressed my back against the oven. For the first time since this started, I understood something clearly. This was not about rent. This was about taking something that could not be replaced. And whatever I thought I knew about who was on my side was about to be tested. The bakery stayed dark for 3 days. Not officially closed. Just quiet in the way a place feels when it has been emptied of permission. The front lights were off, the display case bare, the smell gone. I still came in every morning, unlocked the back door with the key they had not taken yet, and sat at the stainless steel table with my hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that tasted like nothing. Rosa came too. She said she needed the hours, but I knew the truth. She did not want me to be alone in there. On the 4th morning, I baked anyway. I told myself it was habit. I told myself it was practice. But the truth was simpler. I needed to hear the oven breathe. I needed to prove to myself that the place still responded to me. I mixed flour and water and yeast by feel, not measurement, the way my grandmother taught me. When the dough pulled clean from the bowl, I knew my hands were still steady. At 8:15, the back door opened, and Grant walked in as if nothing had changed. He nodded at the oven. "You should not be doing that," he said mildly. "It complicates things." "I am baking," I said. "That is what I do." He set his phone on the table, screen down. "The fund has received complaints. We need to show we are addressing concerns." "What concerns?" Rosa asked. Grant smiled at her. Not unkindly, not kindly either. "Perception matters." End quote. He walked to the counter and picked up a loaf I had just pulled from the rack. He did not break it. He did not taste it. He lifted it, turned it once, and set it back down. "You rely on nostalgia," he said. "People romanticize places like this. But nostalgia does not protect you." I wiped my hands on my apron. "Then why are you here?" "To help you transition," he said. "There is an opportunity." He slid another folder across the table. "Thinner this time. Cleaner. A pilot location," he continued. "Rebranded. Community-owned. You would be featured. Your face. Your story. And my recipes," I said. "Our recipes," he corrected. I pushed the folder back. "No." Grant looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded once, like he had expected that answer. "Then I need to be clear," he said. "You do not have the leverage you think you do." That afternoon, a locksmith came. I watched from across the street as he drilled out the front lock. Grant stood beside him, arms crossed, talking casually. When the new lock clicked into place, Grant tested it twice, then slipped the key into his pocket. The sign went back up. Not my sign. A white temporary one. Coming soon. I went home and pulled every box from under my bed. Old notebooks, printed emails, photos from opening week, a receipt book with my grandmother's handwriting in the margins. I spread everything across the floor until there was no place left to step. I called the landlord. He did not answer. I called the number on the notice. It went to voicemail. At 10 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Camille. She had been with me since the beginning. She lived 3 blocks away, worked with the community fund, and had introduced me to Grant in the first place. She used to sit at my counter after work and talk about how important it was to protect local businesses from people with money and no roots. Her message was short. We need to talk. We met at the park because she said her place was not safe. She sat on the bench with her hands folded tight, eyes scanning the path. They are pushing hard, she said. You should consider compromising. Compromising how? I asked. She hesitated. Sharing. With who? With the fund, she said quickly. It keeps things local. They locked me out, I said. They took my sign. They rerouted my suppliers. Camille flinched. I know. I am trying to slow it down. I looked at her. Really looked. Her shoes were new. Her bag too. Things she never bought before. What did you tell them? I asked. Nothing that hurts you, she said too fast. I went home and did not sleep again. On the 6th day, Nolan Price walked into the bakery through the back door. He was younger than I expected. No tie. Sleeves rolled up. He smelled like rain. I represent a few small shops in the area, he said. Your case was forwarded to me. By who? I asked. He smiled. That is not important. He listened. He did not interrupt. When I finished, he nodded slowly. They are not stealing your recipes, he said. Not yet. They are positioning themselves to say they always had them. Can I stop it? I asked. Yes, he said. But not by arguing fairness. He pulled out a notebook and started listing things. Camera footage, oven logs, supplier invoices, branding registration, lease communications. Data tells the story, he said. Not feelings. That night, Rosa and I went through the bakery inch by inch. We pulled the camera feed from the back office computer. The night before the lockout, someone had come in at 1:42 a.m. They moved like they belonged. They went straight to the storage cabinet under the prep sink. Pause it, I said. Rosa froze the frame. The person wore gloves, a cap. But when they turned, the sleeve slipped. I recognized the bracelet. I did not say anything. The next morning, Grant called. I hear you are getting advice, he said lightly. I hear you are using my work, I replied. He laughed. You do not own a smell, Ava. I hung up. By the end of the week, a pop-up appeared 2 blocks away. Same colors, same layout, different name. I stood across the street and watched people line up. I watched Grant shake hands. I watched Camille stand beside him, clipboard in hand. I went home and opened my grandmother's notebook to the last page. There was a note I had never noticed before. She had underlined one sentence twice. What is taken without respect never lasts. I closed the book and knew one thing with certainty. This was no longer about saving my bakery. It was about proving who had the right to claim its heart. The first customer line formed before sunrise. I watched it from across the street, standing in the shadow of a closed laundromat with my hood pulled low. The pop-up bakery glowed warm and inviting, lights bright, windows spotless. A chalkboard sign promised community bread and heritage flavors. The words felt stolen straight out of my mouth. Grant stood near the door, greeting people by name like he had always belonged there. Camille moved through the crowd with practiced ease, clipboard tucked under her arm, smiling when cameras passed. Someone handed out samples on brown napkins. I recognized the shape of the rolls immediately. They did not even change the fold, Rosa whispered beside me. We stayed long enough to see the first bag come out. The logo was different, but the weight in the paper was wrong. Too light, too fast. Dough rushed instead of rested. They are faking it, Rosa said. No, I said quietly. They are copying what they can. By 10 a.m., my phone started buzzing. Old customers, suppliers, a reporter I did not recognize. I let it ring. I was done explaining myself to people who had already decided who to believe. Instead, I went back to my bakery. The back door still worked. Inside, the air was stale. No bread smell, just dust and metal. I walked to the oven and placed my palm against the door. Cold. Nolan arrived an hour later carrying a small scanner and a laptop. "We start simple," he said. "Timeline. We sat on overturned milk crates and built the week piece by piece. Emails, calls, lock change, supplier reroute, media article, pop-up opening. They moved fast," I said. "They had preparation," Nolan replied. "That is the tell." He plugged the scanner into the office computer and pulled the full camera archive. Not just the bakery cameras, the alley camera, the storage room, the old one we never fixed because it cut out every few seconds. "Most people forget about broken cameras," he said. The footage jumped, stuttered, then cleared. At 1:42 a.m., the door opened. The figure moved confidently. No hesitation, no searching. "They knew the layout," Rosa said. "Yes," Nolan agreed. "And the timing." The person went straight to the cabinet, opened it, removed the vanilla container, then paused. They looked up, right at the camera. The face was blurred by the angle, but the posture was unmistakable. I felt something settle in my chest. Not shock, not anger, recognition. Nolan watched my face. "You know them?" "Yes," I said. "Good," he replied. "Then we move carefully." That afternoon, Nolan filed a formal request for records from the community fund. Public transparency rules. Grant fought it immediately, claiming privacy. "Let him," Nolan said. "Delay looks worse than disclosure." By evening, a cease and desist notice arrived at my door. Accusations, threats, language meant to scare people without money. Rosa read it twice. "They want you to disappear. They want me quiet," I said. That night, Camille knocked. I did not open the door at first. I watched through the peephole as she shifted her weight, checked her phone, smoothed her hair. She looked tired. Guilty, maybe, or practiced. "Ava," she said softly. "Please." I opened the door. She stepped inside like nothing had changed. Looked around my living room, the boxes on the floor, the notebook on the table. "You should not be doing this," she said. "You are making it worse." "For who?" I asked. "For everyone," she replied. "The fund is under pressure. Grant is under pressure." "And me?" I said. "Where do I fit?" She exhaled. "You are being emotional." I laughed once. It surprised us both. "They took my sign," I said. "They took my work. They took my reputation." "They are trying to help," she insisted. "You cannot protect everything by yourself." I grasped it. I stepped closer. "Did you give them the vanilla?" Her eyes flicked away for half a second. "That was enough." "Get out," I said. She left without another word. The next morning, Nolan called. "They rerouted payments through a shell company," he said. "It is sloppy. We have leverage." "Is it enough?" I asked. "It will be," he said. "But we need one more thing." "What?" "Proof that what they are selling is yours, not just similar. And it's not examplated." I went to the kitchen and opened the drawer under the sink. The one they had missed. Inside was a small glass vial. No label, no markings. My grandmother had given it to me years ago. "Never use all of it," she had said. "Smell remembers." I brought it to Nolan. He raised an eyebrow. "What is this?" "Memory," I said. He smiled. "That will do." We took the vial to my supplier. He confirmed the batch, signed an affidavit, pulled records showing only one buyer in 5 years. "That alone will not win," Nolan warned. "But combined, it tells a story." That afternoon, Grant held a press event. I watched it online. He spoke about community values, about preserving heritage, about difficult decisions. He never said my name. That night, Rosa and I baked. Not for sale, not for charity, just to remember. We baked slow, We baked quiet. We let the dough rest as long as it needed. When the bread came out, the smell filled the room. Real, deep, alive. I broke a loaf and tasted it. That is the difference, I said. Rosa nodded. They will never get that right. No, I agreed, but they do not need to. She frowned. What do you mean? They just need people to stop asking where it came from. The next morning, Nolan filed for an emergency injunction. The court date was set for the following week. Grant called twice. Camille sent 3 messages. I ignored all of them. For the first time since this began, I felt steady. Not because I thought I would win, but because I finally understood what they had underestimated. They thought they were taking a business. What they had actually taken was a promise. And promises have a way of demanding answers. By the time the court date was posted online, the story had already moved without me. Local radio hosts debated whether small businesses deserved protection or needed to adapt. A morning show played clips from Grant's press event, cutting out the parts where he dodged questions. Someone started a comment thread accusing me of trying to cash in on sympathy. Another said I had always been difficult and that this was a long time coming. I stopped reading after lunch. Instead, I went back to the bakery and sat on the floor with my back against the oven, listening to the building settle. Pipes ticked. The ceiling fan creaked. The place still knew me, even if the street pretended it did not. Nolan arrived with a stack of papers and 2 coffees. They are escalating, he said, handing me one. Not legally, socially. I noticed, I replied. They want you reactive, he continued. Angry, sloppy. Rosa joined us, wiping her hands on her jeans. People keep asking me if you are okay. I nodded. Tell them I am busy. That afternoon, a letter arrived from the landlord's attorney. Formal, polite. It restated the lease violation and added a clause I had never seen before, citing community redevelopment priorities. They are rewriting history, Rosa said. They are trying to, Nolan corrected. History only changes if no one checks the records. He asked for access to the old filing cabinet in the office, the one I never used anymore because it stuck. Inside were years of maintenance requests, handwritten notes, a receipt for a lock repair from 2 winters ago. This matters, Nolan said, tapping the page. It establishes control. At dusk, I walked past the pop-up again. The line was shorter now. People came out with bags and neutral expressions. Not happy, not disappointed, just fed. I stood close enough to hear a woman complain quietly that the bread was dry. It is still good, her friend said. And it is local. That word hit harder than I expected. Local. I had built this place with scraped knuckles and borrowed money. I had lived above it when I could not afford rent elsewhere. But somehow, I was the outsider now. My phone buzzed. Camille. I let it ring. 10 minutes later, she appeared at the end of the block. She approached slowly, hands visible, like someone walking toward an animal that might bolt. You are making things worse, she said when she reached me. You already said that, I replied. She gestured toward the pop-up. They are serving people. The fund is supporting jobs. Why fight this? Because it is mine, I said. She shook her head. It was never just yours. That sentence sat between us, heavy. I shared it, I said. I never gave it away. You cannot keep everything, she said, voice tight. Not in a place like this. I looked at her, at the familiar curve of her mouth when she thought she was right. Did you take the vanilla? I asked again. She did not answer. That night, Nolan called to say the injunction request had been accepted for review, not granted, not denied. It buys us time, he said. Time turned out to be dangerous. The next morning, a health inspector showed up at my bakery. She was polite, thorough. She cited issues that were real but minor. A loose tile, a missing label, things I would have fixed in an hour. I have to report this, she said apologetically. I nodded. Of course. By noon, a second article went up. Health concerns raised at closed bakery. Rosa slammed her phone down. They are piling it on. Yes, I said. They want me to quit. I did not. Instead, I called my grandmother's old friend, Mr. Delacroix, who still ran a stall at the farmer's market. He listened quietly as I explained. "I told your grandmother once," he said slowly, "that recipes travel faster than respect." "What do I do?" I asked. "You remind people how they know the difference," he said. "Not by arguing, by showing." That evening, I baked again. Not in the bakery. In Mr. Delacroix's stall kitchen. We followed every rule, every permit, every step. We did not sell. We gave. By sunrise, people lined up for free bread with no logo and no speech. Just a table and a sign that read "Fresh Today." Someone asked if it was mine. I said yes. Someone else asked why it tasted different. I said time matters. Photos spread. Not sponsored. Not polished. Just hands breaking bread. By afternoon, Grant called. "This is inappropriate," he said. "You are confusing the public." "I am feeding them," I replied. "You are undermining the fund," he snapped. "You did that yourself," I said. He hung up. That night, Nolan sent me an email with a single attachment. The fund's internal memo. Subject line: Transition Narrative Control. They had planned the media arc weeks ago. "They assumed you would disappear," Nolan wrote. I stared at the screen, feeling something shift. The next day, the court scheduled a hearing. Grant issued a statement welcoming transparency. Camille posted about unity. Rosa packed extra aprons. I stood in the bakery and ran my hand along the counter one last time before the hearing. I did not know how it would end. But I knew one thing for certain. They had underestimated how stubborn memory could be. And memory, once awakened, does not go quietly. The hearing was set for Tuesday morning at 9, which meant no one slept on Monday night. I arrived early, sitting on a wooden bench outside the small courthouse with a paper cup of coffee growing cold in my hands. Rosa sat beside me, knees bouncing. Nolan stood a few steps away, reading through a binder thick enough to bruise if dropped. Across the hall, Grant arrived with 2 attorneys and a communications assistant who kept checking her phone. Camille walked in last. She did not look at me. When the doors opened, the room filled quickly. Reporters took the back row. A few familiar faces from the neighborhood sat scattered among strangers, their expressions cautious, curious, divided. The judge entered without ceremony. Nolan stood first. He did not raise his voice. He did not accuse. He walked through dates, times, documents, lease payments made on schedule, supplier contracts altered without consent, media statements issued before any formal notice. "This is not a dispute about taste or branding," he said. "It is a coordinated attempt to dispossess a business owner through pressure rather than process." Grant's attorney responded smoothly. He spoke about community stewardship, about financial irregularities, about concerns raised in good faith. The judge listened, asked questions, took notes. When it was over, she leaned back in her chair. "I am granting a temporary injunction," she said. "No further use of disputed methods or branding until full review." A murmur rippled through the room. Grant's jaw tightened. Camille's shoulders dropped slightly, as if relieved or resigned. Outside, reporters crowded in. "Do you feel vindicated?" one asked. "I feel tired," I replied. By noon, the pop-up closed. The sign stayed, but the doors were locked. Grant released a statement calling the ruling procedural and temporary. Camille posted about respecting the legal process. I went back to the bakery and unlocked the door with the back key. Inside, it smelled like dust and cold metal. I opened the windows, let the air move. Rosa leaned against the counter. "Is it over?" "No," Nolan said. "Now it gets quiet." Quiet turned out to be dangerous in a different way. Over the next week, the fund stopped calling. Grant disappeared from public view. Camille stopped messaging altogether. Then the letters started. Anonymous. Typed. Slipped under the door. "You should have taken the deal. You ruined something good. People like you do not last." I threw them away without comment. But Rosa noticed my hands shaking. "You do not have to be brave all the time," she said one night as we cleaned. "I know," I replied. "I just do not know how to be anything else right now." Nolan called with updates. Subpoenas. Delays. Requests. "They are bleeding slowly," he said. "They will try to make you tired." One afternoon, my supplier stopped by in person. He set a small box on the counter. "Returned inventory," he said. Unopened. Inside was the vanilla. The seal was broken. I picked it up, smelled it, and felt my throat tighten. "They tried to recreate it," he said. "Failed." That evening, I received a message from Camille. "We need to talk. Alone." I met her at the Riverwalk just before sunset. She stood near the railing, staring at the water. "You should have told me," I said. She did not turn. "You would not have understood." "I knows." "Try me," I replied. She finally faced me. Her eyes were red. "I thought I was helping. I thought if I aligned early, I could protect you later." "By giving them my work?" I asked. "They would have taken it anyway," she said. This way, I had a seat at the table. I let the silence stretch. "What did they promise you?" I asked. She hesitated. "Security, a role, a future." "And now?" I asked. "They are cutting me loose," she admitted. "I am the easiest variable to remove." I said. I nodded slowly. "You chose them." "I chose survival," she snapped. "So did I said. "I just chose it without selling someone else." She flinched. "You can still help," I said. Her head snapped up. "How?" "Tell the truth," I replied. "All of it." She laughed bitterly. "They will destroy me." "They already have," I said quietly. "You just have not felt it yet." She did not answer. The next morning, Nolan called. "They filed a counterclaim," he said, alleging theft. It was. I closed my eyes. "Of what?" "Community funds," he replied. "They are claiming you misused donations." Rosa slammed a tray down when I told her. "That is a lie," she said. "Yes," I agreed. "And it is specific." That was the problem. It was specific enough to sound real. We spent the day pulling bank records, donation logs, receipts from the shelter. At midnight, Nolan sent me a single message. "Found the transfer." Attached was a spreadsheet showing money moving through the fund into a consulting account, then back out to a personal card. The name on the account was not Grant's. It was Camille's. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. The next day, Camille did not show up to work. By evening, the fund issued a statement about internal restructuring. Grant reappeared, flanked by lawyers, denying wrongdoing and promising accountability. The neighborhood buzzed. Rosa looked at me. "What do you do now?" I thought about the vanilla, the broken seal, the way some things cannot be put back once opened. "I finish it," I said. That night, I wrote a statement, not to the press, to the court. I attached every document, every message, every timeline. I did not soften it. I did not dramatize it. I told the truth the way bread tells it, slowly and without decoration. When I finished, the bakery was quiet again. But this time, it did not feel empty. It felt ready. The counterclaim changed the temperature of everything. Up until that point, the fight had been public but contained. Papers, statements, smiles that did not reach the eyes. Now it was personal in a way that could not be brushed off as business disagreement. Misuse of community funds. Those words carried weight in this neighborhood. They turned friends cautious and made silence feel safer than support. The morning after Nolan filed my statement with the court, I unlocked the bakery and found someone had left a cardboard box on the doorstep. Inside were printed screenshots of the accusation, highlighted in yellow, with the words, "See what you really are," scrawled across the top in marker. Rosa stood behind me, arms crossed tight. "They are trying to scare you," she said. "It is working," I replied honestly. By noon, the shelter called. They were polite, apologetic, but they said they needed to pause accepting donations from me until things were resolved. "I understand," I told them. After I hung up, I sat on the floor and stared at my hands. Flour still lived in the lines of my skin no matter how much I washed them. Proof of work. Proof of effort. Proof, I hoped, of something that could not be erased by a rumor. Nolan came by in the afternoon with his laptop and a look that told me not to panic. "This is aggressive," he said, "but it is also sloppy. Is din 9." He pulled up the transfer records again. The same account. The same routing numbers. Camille's name appeared 3 times where it should not have appeared at all. They assumed you would not look this closely, he continued, or that you would not understand what you were looking at. I understand, I said. I just wish I did not. Rosa paced the room. Are they going to arrest her? No, Nolan replied. Not yet. This is still civil. But if this goes to discovery, criminal exposure becomes real. That night, I did not go home. I slept on a cot in the bakery office with my shoes on and my phone beside me. I woke every time a car slowed outside. Around 3 in the morning, I opened my grandmother's notebook again. I read the margins this time, the notes she never explained. Little reminders. Do not rush the second rise. Salt comes after yeast wakes. Trust your hands, not the clock. On the inside back cover, there was a list of names. People she trusted, people she loaned money to, people who borrowed tools and returned them clean. Camille's mother's name was there. I closed the book and felt something tighten and loosen at the same time. The next day, Nolan called early. They want mediation, he said. Who? I asked. The fund, he replied. They want to settle quietly. And Camille? I asked. He hesitated. She is not included. Davin, 19. We met at Nolan's office that afternoon. Grant arrived late, flanked by lawyers. He smiled like someone who believed time was on his side. Ava, he said warmly, this has gone too far. You started it? I replied. He waved a hand. We all made mistakes. Nolan slid a document across the table. This is not about mistakes. This is about responsibility. Grant skimmed it, his smile thinning. You are asking for reputational damage. Yes, Nolan said. Accurate reputational damage. Endism. Grant leaned back. And what do you want in return? My bakery, I said. My name. And the truth on record. Grant laughed softly. Truth is flexible. I stood. Not this time. The meeting ended without agreement. Outside, the air felt heavier than before. That evening, Camille showed up at the bakery. She looked smaller somehow, like someone who had lost the confidence that kept them upright. I know about the filing, she said quietly. I figured, I replied. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. They are blaming me. They should, I said. Her face crumpled. I did not take all of it. Grant told me the transfers were temporary, that they would be corrected. You signed them, I said. I trusted him. She whispered. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. You trusted power, I said. Not people. She sank onto a stool. What happens now? I took a breath. This was the moment I had been circling since the first night I saw the bracelet on the camera. You tell the truth, I said. In writing, under oath. She shook her head. I cannot. I will lose everything. You already have, I replied gently. She looked at me with something like fear. Will you destroy me? The question hung there. I thought about my grandmother, about the list of names, about the way she crossed people out when they broke trust and never wrote them back in. No, I said. I will not destroy you, but I will not protect you either. Tears slid down Camille's face. She nodded once. The affidavit came 2 days later. It detailed every conversation, every promise, every transfer. Grant's name appeared again and again, clear and undeniable. When Nolan forwarded it to me, I sat in the bakery and read it slowly. Rosa watched me from across the room. Is it enough? It is heavy, I said. Heavy things sink. The news broke quietly at first, then loudly. Headlines changed tone. Questions sharpened. Grant stopped smiling. The fund announced an internal investigation. Camille resigned. People started coming back to the bakery, not to buy, just to look, to see if I was still standing. I unlocked the front door for the first time in weeks and let the light in. That night, I baked 1 loaf. Just one. I let it rise fully. I did not rush it. When it came out of the oven, the smell filled the room, steady and familiar. I broke the bread and tasted it. It tasted like truth. And truth, once spoken, does not ask permission to be heard. The first morning the bakery reopened, only 3 people came in. I did not announce it. I did not post online. I unlocked the front door, flipped the sign to open, and waited. The bell above the door rang softly when the first customer stepped inside, like it was testing whether it was allowed to make noise again. It was Mr. Delacroix. He did not say anything. He just nodded once, walked to the counter, and placed a $5 bill down like a promise. "Same as always," he said. I sliced the bread myself and wrapped it in paper. When I handed it to him, his hands shook just a little. "It smells right," he said, then turned and left. By noon, the news vans arrived. Not because of me. Because of Grant. A reporter stood outside the pop-up location, microphone raised, asking why the doors were still closed after the injunction. Grant did not appear. His lawyers did. Inside my bakery, Rosa scrubbed the counter so hard, I worried she would wear through it. "They are circling," she said. "Yes," I replied. "They smell blood." That afternoon, Nolan called. "Grant is moving assets," he said. "Fast." "Where?" I asked. "Anywhere he can," Nolan replied. "And he is trying to drag you with him." The counterclaim was amended. This time, it named me directly as a co-conspirator in misappropriation of funds, citing Camille's transfers as proof that I had knowledge. "They are desperate," Nolan said. "This is a reach." "It will still hurt," I said. He did not argue. The next blow came from a place I did not expect. The shelter released a statement saying they were severing ties with my bakery permanently to protect their donors. I read it twice before it made sense. Rosa saw my face and took the phone from my hand. "They are afraid," she said softly. "I know," I replied. "I just did not think they would be afraid of me." That night, someone threw a rock through the bakery window. It did not hit anything important, just glass. But the sound echoed in my bones. I stood there, staring at the hole while Rosa called the police. A young officer arrived and took notes. He looked uncomfortable. "Probably kids," he said. "Probably," I agreed. After he left, I swept up the glass and kept working. I refused to let fear turn into ritual. The next morning, Camille's affidavit went public. Not leaked, filed, official. The language was plain. No excuses, no drama. Just facts and signatures. By lunchtime, Grant's name trended locally. By evening, the fund placed him on administrative leave. Rosa burst into the bakery, waving her phone. "They finally did it." "Yes," I said. "Now watch what he does next." Grant did not apologize. He went on air. He spoke calmly, hands folded, saying he had been misled by subordinates and that any financial irregularities were the result of overdelegation. He never said Camille's name. He implied mine. "Classic," Nolan muttered when we watched the clip together. That night, Nolan asked me a question he had avoided until now. "What do you want when this is over?" he asked. I looked around the bakery. The scuffed floor, the uneven shelves, the oven that ran hot if you did not watch it closely. "I want it clean," I said. "Not perfect. Clean." He nodded. "Then we need to decide how far you are willing to go." The answer came sooner than expected. 2 days later, a subpoena arrived. Grant was requesting my personal financial records going back 10 years. "They are fishing," Rosa said angrily. "Yes," Nolan agreed, "and they are hoping you panic." I did not. I gathered everything: bank statements, tax returns, receipts, even the loan I took out to open the bakery, signed by my grandmother as co-guarantor. When Nolan reviewed it, he smiled for the first time in weeks. "This is boring," he said. "Boring is good." The deposition was scheduled for Friday. I wore jeans and a clean shirt. Nothing special, nothing defensive. Grant sat across from me, eyes sharp, posture relaxed. "Miss Monroe," his attorney began, "did you ever receive funds from the Community Foundation?" "Yes," I replied, "for bread donated to the shelter. Every dollar was logged." "Did you ever authorize Miss Hart to transfer funds on your behalf?" "No." Grant leaned forward slightly. "But you trusted her." "Yes," I said. "And that trust was misplaced," he said. "Yes," I replied again. The attorney frowned. "Are you saying Miss Hart acted alone?" "No," I said calmly. "I am saying she acted with instruction." Grant's jaw tightened. "From whom?" the attorney pressed. "From you," I said. The room went quiet. Grant laughed softly. "That is quite an accusation." "I have the records," I said, "and so does the court." The deposition ended early. Outside, Nolan exhaled slowly. That landed. By Monday, the funds board convened an emergency session. By Wednesday, Grant resigned. The press framed it as a mutual decision. I framed it as relief. But the story was not done. That night, Camille showed up again. She looked thinner, worn. "I am leaving town," she said. I nodded. "That might be wise." She hesitated. "Do you hate me?" I considered the question carefully. "No," I said. "I do not trust you." She swallowed. "Is there a difference?" "Yes," I replied. "Hatred wants something from you. I do not. I have not mine." She left without another word. The next morning, I arrived at the bakery early and found someone waiting. It was Grant. No lawyers, no camera, just him. "I underestimated you," he said. "Yes," I agreed. He looked around. "This place could have been bigger." "It still might be," I said. "Just not yours." He nodded once, like someone accepting a loss he did not understand. "I offered you a way out," he said. "You offered me erasure," I replied. He left. By the end of the week, the counterclaim was withdrawn. The fund issued a formal apology. The shelter called to ask if I would reconsider. I told them I needed time. That Sunday, I baked again for free. Not because I owed anyone, because I chose to. As I set the bread out on the table, I realized something had shifted. I was no longer fighting to get back what I lost. I was deciding what deserved to stay. The quiet after Grant resigned did not feel like peace. It felt like the pause you get right before a storm decides which direction to turn. For a few days, nothing happened. No reporters, no letters, no new filings. People came into the bakery again, cautious but curious, as if checking whether the ground would give way under their feet. I kept my head down and baked. I weighed flour. I listened to the oven. I did not talk about the case unless someone asked directly. On the fourth morning, Nolan called before sunrise. "They are not done," he said. "Who?" I asked, though I already knew. "The funds board," he replied. "They are trying to save themselves." By mid-morning, an email arrived from the fund's interim director. Polite, measured, full of words like reconciliation and community healing. They wanted a private meeting. No lawyers, no press. "They want a picture," Rosa said when she read it. A smile. "It's done extended. It's done examas. They want closure without consequences," I replied. Nolan advised caution, but did not tell me not to go. "Sometimes," he said, "people reveal more when they think the fight is over." The meeting was held in a rented conference room above a bank. Neutral ground, beige walls, bottled water lined up like props. 5 board members sat on one side of the table. All strangers to me. All people who had signed statements about values while ignoring what happened in their own office. The interim director spoke first. "We regret the distress caused." "Distress," I repeated. She nodded, unbothered. "We are prepared to offer a settlement." She slid a document across the table. Money. Silence. A clause that barred me from public comment. Rosa's jaw clenched. I flipped through the pages slowly. "You want me to disappear quietly. We want to move forward," the director said. "Without fixing anything," I replied. One of the board members leaned in. "Miss Monroe, do you understand what prolonged litigation does to reputations? To small businesses?" I looked at him. "I understand what lying does." Silence followed. The director cleared her throat. "Grant acted alone." "No," I said. "He did not. He is no longer with us," she insisted. "But the system that let him act is," I replied. She smiled thinly. "We cannot punish an institution." "You can change it," I said. They exchanged glances. "That is not on the table," the director said. I closed the folder. "Then neither am I." The meeting ended quickly after that. Outside, Rosa let out a breath she had been holding. "They thought you would take it." "So did Grant," I said. That afternoon, Nolan forwarded me an update from the court clerk. The judge had scheduled a full evidentiary hearing. Subpoenas expanded to include board communications. "They are exposed now," Nolan wrote. "They know it." The next escalation came from an unexpected place. My grandmother's old notebook went missing. I noticed it that night when I reached for it out of habit. The drawer was empty. The rest of the papers were untouched. I stood there longer than I should have, heart beating slow and heavy. Rosa helped me search the bakery, the office, the storage room. Nothing. They would not take that, she said, uncertain. They would, I replied. If they knew what it meant. I locked the door and went home, feeling smaller than I had in weeks. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A photo appeared on the screen. It was the notebook. Open to a page with handwriting circled in red. We can talk. The message did not need a signature. I did not respond. Instead, I forwarded the image to Nolan. He called immediately. Do not engage, he said. This is intimidation. It is also theft, I replied. Yes, he agreed, which changes things. The next day, the police took a report. They were polite, but unconvinced. No forced entry, the officer said. Hard to prove. I nodded. I know. But Nolan did not let it go. He filed an emergency motion citing witness intimidation and evidence tampering. By evening, the fund's legal team was in damage control mode again. A statement was released denying any involvement. The notebook appeared back in the bakery the following morning. It sat on the prep table, placed carefully, like an offering. Nothing else was touched. Rosa stared at it. That is not subtle. No, I said. That is a warning. I opened the notebook and flipped through every page. Nothing was altered, except one thing. A small sticky note had been placed on the inside cover. You cannot prove everything. I peeled it off and set it aside. They are wrong, Rosa said. Yes, I replied, but not for the reason they think. The hearing date approached. Pressure built again. Calls from reporters. Messages from people I barely knew offering advice. Some offered support. Others offered deals. I turned most of it down. On the night before the hearing, I stayed late at the bakery alone. I baked 2 loaves. One using the full recipe. One with a shortcut. I sliced them side by side and tasted them. The difference was obvious to me. To someone rushing past a display, maybe not. That was the point. At the hearing, Nolan presented the theft of the notebook as part of a pattern. Control, silence, erasure. The fund's attorneys denied everything. Then Nolan submitted the photo. Time-stamped. Metadata intact. The judge leaned forward. Who sent this? She asked. Nolan did not answer. He did not need to. The room shifted. The board members avoided eye contact. The judge ordered additional discovery. This time, into internal communications during the lockout period. Outside the courtroom, Rosa squeezed my hand. You are winning, she said. No, I replied. I am being heard. I hope expresses. That night, as I locked the bakery, I realized something else. They had crossed a line they could not uncross. They had turned a business dispute into a question of character, and once character is on trial, there is no settlement big enough to buy it back. The hearing did not end the way people expected. There was no dramatic ruling, no gavel slam, just a quiet order expanding discovery and a judge who did not hide her irritation. That was enough. Everyone in that room understood what it meant. The fund was no longer controlling the timeline. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. I did not stop. Rosa walked on my left, Nolan on my right, forming a small moving wall. Someone shouted my name. Someone else asked if I felt vindicated. I felt exposed. That night, the bakery stayed open late. Not busy, just open. A few people wandered in, bought bread, thanked me awkwardly, and left. It felt like a wake more than a reopening. People were paying respects to something they were not sure would survive. After closing, I sat on the floor again, back against the oven, the notebook on my lap. Rosa broke the silence. You okay? I do not know, I said. I think I am between things. As one, she nodded like she understood exactly what that meant. The next morning, Nolan called with urgency in his voice. They are panicking, he said. The board is turning on each other. Good, I replied. Not just good, he continued. Dangerous. He explained that internal emails were surfacing. Not just about me, about other businesses. Other takeovers disguised as assistants. Patterns forming where there should have been isolated incidents. They will try to bury this, Nolan said. And if they cannot, they will try to narrow it. Narrow it how? I asked. To you, he replied. Make you the exception, the problem case. As if summoned by his words, my phone buzzed. A number I recognized but had not seen in weeks. The interim director of the fund. I did not answer. She left a message anyway. Calm, professional, carefully recorded. Ava, we believe this situation has escalated beyond its original scope. We would like to discuss a comprehensive resolution. Tenyu said. Comprehensive was a dangerous word. By afternoon, Nolan had copies of newly produced emails. Redacted. Sloppy. One thread caught his attention. Subject line. If Monroe does not fold. The messages discussed delaying permits, influencing inspectors, leveraging partners. None of it mentioned me by name, just references, she, the bakery, the situation. They talk like this is a chessboard, Rosa said when Nolan read it aloud. Yes, Nolan replied, and they think you are a pawn. It is Nautiklade. That evening, something unexpected happened. A woman walked into the bakery just before closing, mid-40s, neatly dressed, nervous. I am sorry to bother you, she said. My name is Elaine Parker. The name meant nothing to me at first. She swallowed. I used to work for the fund. Accounting. Rosa and I exchanged a look. Elaine continued. I saw what they did to you. I saw what they did to others. I did not speak up before because I needed the job. Her voice cracked. I cannot do that anymore. She slid a flash drive across the counter. I copied everything I could, she said, before they locked me out. My heart slowed. Focused, Nolan arrived 20 minutes later. He did not smile when he saw the drive. He did not relax. This changes the leverage, he said. Elaine looked at me. I am not asking for protection. I just want this to stop. I nodded. So do I. The data was worse than expected. Budgets labeled community support rerouted through consulting firms. Email chains discussing optics. One document titled Risk Containment listed my name under potential narrative threats. They planned for you, Rosa said quietly. Yes, I replied. They just planned wrong. The next filing was not mine. It was a motion from the state attorney's office. The fund was under investigation. That news broke fast. By noon, Grant's resignation looked like a footnote. Board members issued statements. Phones went silent. The fund's website went dark. Reporters returned. Louder this time. I still did not speak. Nolan advised restraint. Let the documents talk. They did. Within days, other business owners came forward. Stories echoed mine with different details. Different faces. Same structure. Help offered. Control taken. Silence enforced. I watched it unfold with a strange detachment. Rosa noticed. You seem far away. I am, I said. I am trying to see what comes after. The answer arrived in the form of another offer. This one came from the city. A redevelopment office representative requested a meeting. Transparency initiative. Advisory role. They wanted me to sit on a panel about ethical partnerships. They want you as a symbol, Nolan said. They want me as proof, I corrected. We met anyway. They spoke about lessons learned, about reform, about rebuilding trust. They offered funding, grants, visibility. Rosa looked hopeful. This could help. It could, I said, or it could make me quiet. The room went still. I stood. If I do this, it is on my terms. What are those? The representative asked. No non-disclosure agreements, I said. No branding control. No selective stories. She hesitated. That may not be possible. Then it is not for me, I replied. We left without shaking hands. That night, I locked the bakery and walked alone along the river. The city lights reflected in the water, broken and shifting. Nothing stayed whole for long. It just kept moving. I thought about the notebook, about the sticky note. You cannot prove everything. They were right. I could not prove everything, but I did not need to. I had proven enough. When I returned to the bakery, Rosa was waiting with a note. Someone had slipped it under the door. No threats, no insults. Just 4 words, written in careful handwriting. Thank you for not folding. I folded the note instead and placed it in the notebook. For the first time since this began, I slept through the night. Not because the fight was over, but because I knew what kind of ending I was willing to accept. The investigation moved faster than anyone expected. By the end of the week, the fund's offices were sealed, not dramatically, just quietly, with notices taped to glass doors and employees instructed to work from home until further notice. The word suspension appeared in headlines, then oversight, then restructuring. Language softened the impact, but everyone understood what had happened. A system that liked to call itself invisible had been forced into the light. For me, the days became strangely ordinary. I opened the bakery at 6. I baked. I cleaned. I talked to customers about the weather, about how long bread should cool before slicing, about whether the city would ever fix the pothole out front. No one mentioned the case, unless I did. When they did, their voices lowered, as if the truth had become something fragile. Rosa noticed it too. They are watching you, she said one morning, wiping down the counter. Like they are waiting for instructions. I am not giving any, I replied. That was the problem. People wanted a villain, a hero, a lesson neatly packaged. I was none of those things. I was tired, I was focused, and I was done performing. Nolan called midweek with an update that made me sit down. The board is negotiating immunity for lower-level staff, he said. They are offering documents in exchange. And Grant? I asked. He has retained separate counsel, Nolan replied. He is not cooperating. That did not surprise me. Grant had always believed he could talk his way out of consequences. He believed charm was a currency that never lost value. 2 days later, he tested that belief. He came to the bakery just before closing, standing outside until the last customer left. I saw him through the window and felt a familiar tightening in my chest, not fear, but irritation. I unlocked the door and stepped out instead of letting him in. You look well, he said, as if we were neighbors catching up. You look nervous, I replied. He smiled thinly. I am under a lot of pressure. So am I said. But I am not here. He leaned closer. This has gone far enough. People are getting hurt. People were already hurt, I said. You just did not care until it reached you. He sighed. I can make this easier. I waited. He lowered his voice. I know where the vanilla came from. I know the supplier. I can testify that I believed it was licensed. That would be a lie, I said. Belief is subjective, he replied. And prison is not, I said. His smile disappeared. You are ruining something bigger than you, he snapped. No, I said calmly. I am exposing it. He took a step back, studying me like I had changed shape. You think you are different, he said. I know I am, I replied. I stayed. He left without another word. That night, Nolan emailed to say Grant's counsel had reached out again, this time requesting a meeting with the state investigators. He is folding, Nolan wrote, badly. The next week brought another twist. The city announced a temporary moratorium on community fund-mediated leases pending review. It was framed as a precaution, but everyone knew why it existed. Other business owners began showing up at my door, not for bread, but for advice. I do not know what to tell them, I said to Rosa one afternoon. Tell them what you did, she replied. You did not disappear. One of those visitors was an older man who ran a print shop 3 streets over. He sat at the counter, hands folded, eyes tired. They tried the same thing, he said. Years ago, I signed because I was scared. What happened? I asked. I lost the shop, he said simply. He did not ask for anything else. He just wanted to say it out loud. That night, I wrote everything down. Not for court, for myself. Every moment where I almost quit, every compromise I considered, every lie that almost sounded reasonable. I slept with the notebook beside me. The next hearing was different. The room was fuller, the tone heavier. The judge listened as investigators summarized findings. Patterns, intent, harm. Grant's name came up again and again. When his attorney spoke, The confidence was gone. The words felt practiced and hollow. At the end, the judge issued an order freezing remaining assets tied to the fund and referring specific individuals for criminal review. Grant did not look at me as he left. Outside, cameras waited again. This time, I stopped. "I did not plan for this," I said when asked why I fought. "I just did not agree to disappear." That clip ran everywhere. By evening, my phone was full of messages, some supportive, some angry, some asking me to run for something I had no interest in. I turned it off. The final confrontation came quietly. Camille called from a number I did not recognize. "I am ready to sign the cooperation agreement," she said. "That is between you and them," I replied. She hesitated. "Do you hate me now?" I thought about it. "No," I said. "I am done carrying you." She exhaled, like she had been waiting for permission to stop pretending. The bakery grew busier after that, not because of sympathy, but because people trusted it again. Trust moved slower than outrage, but it stayed longer. One afternoon, the shelter director came by. "We were wrong," she said. "We followed fear." I nodded. "Fear is loud." "We would like to rebuild," she continued. "I would like that too," I replied, "but not the old way." We started small, transparent, one loaf at a time. As the months passed, the case stopped being news. It became paperwork, sentencing guidelines, compliance plans. Life returned in pieces. One evening, as I locked up, Rosa stood beside me and asked a question she had been holding back. "Do you feel like you won?" I looked at the darkened street, the quiet bakery behind me. "No," I said. "I feel like I kept something." She smiled. "That is better." As I walked home, I realized the ending was not going to be loud. It was going to be honest. And for the first time since this began, that felt like enough. The letter arrived on a Thursday afternoon, folded once, and slipped through the mail slot like any other bill. No logo, no letterhead, just my name, written carefully in black ink. Inside was a single page. The district attorney's office informed me that Camille Hart had entered a cooperation agreement. Her testimony would be used in multiple proceedings related to financial fraud, coercion, and misuse of charitable funds. In exchange, the state would recommend probation, restitution, and a permanent ban from working in nonprofit financial management. I read it twice, then a third time. Rosa watched me from across the bakery. "Is it over?" "No," I said. "It is decided." There was a difference. That evening, Camille showed up one last time. She did not knock. She waited until I stepped outside to lock the door. She looked thinner than before, older, somehow. The confidence that once carried her through rooms was gone, replaced by something fragile and plain. "I did what you asked," she said. "I did not ask," I replied. "I told you what I would not do." She nodded. "I know." We stood there for a moment, the street quiet around us. "They offered me a deal," she continued. "I could have fought it, claimed ignorance, but you did not." I said. "No," she said softly. "I was tired of pretending I did not understand what I was doing." End quote. I looked at her then, really looked. For the first time, I did not feel anger. I felt clarity. "You chose yourself over everyone else," I said, "and now you are choosing consequences." She swallowed. "Do you think I deserve forgiveness?" The question hung between us, heavy and honest. "No," I said. "I think you deserve truth." Her shoulders sagged, but she did not argue. "I wanted you to hate me," she admitted. "It would have been easier." "I do not have the energy," I replied. She gave a small, broken laugh. "You always were stubborn." "Yes," I said, "and you always thought that meant weak." She nodded, accepting it. Before she left, she said one more thing. "They never understood what you were protecting. They thought it was a recipe, a brand." "And you?" I asked. She looked away. I forgot. After she walked off, I stood alone under the streetlight, listening to the hum of the city, and felt something finally loosen in my chest. Not relief. Release. The trial dates were scheduled soon after. Grant pleaded not guilty. His lawyers painted him as a visionary undone by bureaucracy and bad actors beneath him. Camille's testimony shattered that image piece by piece. Emails, voice recordings, meeting notes. Patterns became intent. When the verdict came, it was not dramatic. Guilty on multiple counts. Sentencing would follow. Grant did not look at me when he was led away. I did not look at him either. That was the moment I understood something important. Justice is not a spectacle. It is a process that asks you to stay longer than you want to. The bakery changed again after that. Not in size, not in profit, in tone. People stopped whispering when I walked by. They stopped treating the place like a symbol. It was just a bakery again, a place to stand in line, a place to complain about crust thickness and whether the rye was better last week. Rosa took over scheduling. She was good at it, fair, firm. I gave her the keys without ceremony. "You trust me?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "and that is not a compliment. It is a responsibility." She smiled like she understood. One afternoon, I found my grandmother's notebook open on the counter, a page turned that I did not remember opening. Rosa had been reading it during her break. "She was wise," Rosa said when she saw me looking. "Sharp." "She was," I agreed. Rosa hesitated. "What are you going to do now?" I thought about it. "Stay," I said. She laughed. "That is it?" "That is everything," I replied. The fund dissolved officially 2 months later. A new oversight board was formed. Public records, rotating leadership, mandatory audits. I was invited to participate. I declined, not because I was bitter, because I understood something they did not. Change does not always come from the table. Sometimes it comes from refusing to sit at it. The shelter reopened its partnership with me slowly, carefully. We started with 20 loaves a week. No photos, no press, just bread. One evening, as I closed up, a young woman lingered by the door. "I want to open a cafe," she said nervously. "Everyone says I should partner with someone bigger." I smiled gently. "Make sure they need you as much as you need them." She nodded, writing it down like advice she planned to survive on. That night, I went home and slept deeply, without dreams. For the first time in a long while, nothing was waiting to be taken from me. And that, I realized, was the real ending, not victory. Ownership. The morning I realized the story was truly over did not come with an announcement. It came with a delivery. A small brown truck pulled up just after dawn, the driver carrying a crate marked fragile. I signed for it without thinking much, assuming it was another replacement part for the oven or a shipment sent to the wrong address again. Inside the crate was a new mixer. Not fancy, not oversized, just solid, quiet, and reliable. A handwritten note was taped to the side. "Paid in full. From someone who stayed open because you did." There was no name. I stood there for a long moment, hand resting on the metal, and felt something close to gratitude but heavier. Like responsibility. Rosa arrived soon after, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "What is that?" she asked. "A reminder," I said. She smiled and went to tie her apron. The bakery settled into its rhythm again. Not the frantic kind, the honest kind. Doors opening on time, dough rising when it was ready. Customers who knew what they wanted and did not mind waiting when the answer was not now. A week later, the sentencing made the paper. Grant received time. Not enough to satisfy outrage, but enough to mark the record, enough to end the version of him that believed consequence was optional. Camille began probation the same day. I did not attend either proceeding. I was baking. That choice surprised some people. "You should see it," they said. "You earned that ending." But I had learned something by then. Endings do not belong to spectators. They belong to the work you return to when the noise fades. The shelter partnership grew again, slowly and quietly. We wrote down every loaf, every delivery. Rosa insisted on transparency, even when no one was watching. "Especially then," she said. "The first holiday season after everything happened was strange. The bakery was full, but different. People came with intention. They asked about ingredients, about timing, about how we sourced, what we used. Trust had become a conversation, not an assumption. I welcomed that. One night, after we closed, Rosa locked the door and leaned against it. You ever think about leaving? She asked. Yes, I said honestly. Sometimes. Why do you stay? I looked around the room. The worn counter, the small crack in the tile that never quite stayed fixed, the oven that hummed like it was thinking. Because this place does not lie, I said. It shows you exactly what you put into it. She nodded. That is rare. Winter passed. Spring came. The city moved on, as cities do. New projects, new scandals, new heroes to build and tear down. My name came up less and less. That felt like success. One afternoon, a letter arrived from the city clerk confirming that the lease amendment had been voided permanently. The original terms restored, no conditions, no future reviews attached. I framed it and hung it in the office. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Paper matters. Words matter. Signatures matter. People matter more. The last loose thread tied itself off on a quiet Tuesday. A cashier from the old pop-up location came in just before closing. She stood near the door, twisting her hands. I wanted to say thank you, she said. For what? I asked. For proving it was not our fault, she replied. They told us we were lucky to be there. Were you? I asked. She thought about it. No, we were scared. I nodded. That is not luck. She bought a loaf and left with her head a little higher. That night, I took out my grandmother's notebook, one final time. I had not added to it before. It never felt right. But now, I opened to the last blank page and wrote one line. Do not confuse opportunity with permission. I closed the book and placed it back in the drawer. Some things did not need to be revisited. On a Saturday in late spring, the bakery was busier than usual. A line formed out the door, not because of a trend, but because someone nearby had broken down and people were walking more. An older man at the counter asked how long the wait would be. As long as it takes, I said. He smiled. That sounds fair. As I handed him his bread, I caught my reflection in the glass. I looked older than when this began, not in years, in edges, sharper, clearer, unhidden. When the rush passed and the street quieted again, Rosa and I sat on overturned crates out back, sharing a soda. You know, she said, people still talk about you. I know, I replied. Does it bother you? I thought about it. No, I said. It just does not belong to me. She laughed. You are weird. Yes, I agreed. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the alley. The bakery lights flickered on, steady and warm. I locked the door and slid the key into my pocket, feeling its weight there. Not as a symbol, as a tool. As I walked home, I realized the twist people expected never came. There was no grand victory lap, no sudden expansion, no moment where everything became easy. Instead, there was something better. I was still here. The bakery was still here. And nothing I believed about myself had collapsed. It had been tested. It had held. Sometimes, that is the most shocking ending of all.